you so much for joining us to chat about such an important topic. And I thought we could start. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do as a brand strategist?
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the invite and the time. I'm actually so passionate about this topic. Talk about it all the time with friends, with clients, with everybody that can hear me about the importance of your digital footprint. But a little bit about me: I graduated from FIU in 2004. From the Carter School, or back then the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. So I have a degree in advertising, minor in marketing, and later on I got a certificate in diversity and inclusion and also marketing strategy, just to kind of refresh things and stay up to date, which I think is super important for everybody to do in whatever field that you're in. And I started then I started Advertising Addicts in 2017, was working on that part time, and then I went full time on Advertising Addicts in November of 2020, like many other people did, I think, with whatever part times they were doing from home, or they definitely just took the plunge and started their own thing, right? So, same here. I've been since 2017. I've been officially helping a few professionals and small businesses thrive in, especially within the social and the digital space. Back when I started my career in 2005, a couple of years into it, that's really when Facebook picked up, and the internet really was all about having the right website, and are you using Facebook? Which one's the agency that can help us? So ever since then, I've been very interested in the space. I've seen the power that it has. And I think everybody with the right knowledge in how to use it, you can definitely leverage it to have an advantage on your competition, and to lead. For businesses to acquire more leads for your business, to grow sales, grow your staff, your team, keep growing. And then from an individual perspective, I think it has an enormous opportunity for you to really stand out against the competition and have that dream job look at your resume and actually call you for an interview. Really gets you in the door and can open many doors for you.
That's great. So that's perfect, because that's exactly where we're going to lead into and get started here. So, when we had first started thinking about what to focus this session on, and you and I had chatted a little bit, we'd been seeing so much movement in the job market, and especially in the digital space, as you mentioned. So can you talk a little bit about what a digital footprint is and why it's so important that FIU alumni, especially those that are considering a career move, understand that concept?
Definitely. So a digital footprint is really, you want to make sure that you have one, first of all, and you want to make sure that it's updated. So, and the reason for that is because, people are going to look for you online, right? So just like a business, a person, you say anything. If I recommend somebody to you right now, you are probably going to go on your phone and you're going to look them up on LinkedIn, or you're going to look them up on Instagram and see what friends you have in common, right? Who knows this person? Who can tell me about them? What are they like? What are they talking about? And really start getting to know them before you even get to reach out to the person themselves, right? You also want to make sure that when people go online and Google your name, that you're the one that's popping up, right? So if you are searching online right now on Google and you look for Silvana Massolo, you will have my name pop up in the first few searches. It will show up the Silvana Massolo, my Facebook page, my Instagram page, my website, my business website will show up. All of these things help you tell, you being active in the social digital space helps Google understand that this is an active person. This is somebody that's contributing to the digital space. Let me help them organically push up their searches so that people can find them. So it definitely helps in doing that. And you definitely want to be ready and very conscious and very aware of what you're putting out on the internet, right? So whatever it is that you're putting out there has to be okay, and it has to speak to the person you are, right? And it's something that sometimes you have to communicate to your peers. You have to communicate to other people. Tagging is super common. So, be aware of what you're being tagged on, right?
Right, because
And
it's not just what you post, what you choose to post yourself, but what your friends are
mhm,
posting and tagging you in. Yeah, I think that's really important.
absolutely, yeah. And again, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be yourself. I think authenticity is what makes you different and special, right? Sometimes it's what it's going to make, most of the time, it's going to be the decision maker between you and somebody else when being hired for a job. But
Hmm.
if you are into something that the reality is, we do live in a society where people are going to look for you and they're going to kind of formulate an idea of who you are based on what
Hmm.
they find, right? So if you are, depending on your industry and depending on what you're looking for in your next job, if you're maybe into something that's a little bit more controversial, maybe um, try to have your profile, I would recommend you go private on your profile,
Hmm.
or that you just or you embrace it and you say, this is who I am, this is what I'm putting out in the world, and you are okay with other people, especially if you're in the job market, for other people to see that and potentially make a decision out of it, right? So
Hmm.
you have to really weigh in what's important to you and what level in your life you're in, right? So if you right now work for a company and you're happy there and everybody knows what you're into and your clients know what you're into, and then it's totally fine, right? If you are looking for a job, and you have to just be a little bit more conscious, I think, of what you're putting out there.
Yeah. So in terms of the privacy settings, because I know you touched on that
Mhm.
for a minute there, do those? I guess my question on that is really like, do they work, or do we just need to assume that anything I post on any online platform is going to be
Mhm.
accessible by people? What's sort of your take on that?
I think it works. I think it works. I think it's a matter of you also being conscious of who you allow into that small circle,
Hmm.
right? So it definitely works. I think it allows you to be who you are and allows you to maintain that privacy that a lot of people really want. It's the fact that my profile, my personal profile, my business profile, they're both open, they're both public. That is a conscious decision that I've made,
Hmm.
right? Um, so I am aware of what I'm putting out there. You have to be aware of what you're putting out there. And I'll tell you, I've had instances in my career where um, I had someone who worked in the team, for example, say, um, um, I'm sick, I can't make it to work, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. Their profile was public, and everybody at the office had seen them partying all night long
Oh
and doing
no.
all the things, which is totally fine. Like we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost then now you're kind of damaging that trust that was established with you by not being honest when you called in, right? Like,
Hmm.
because everybody knows what happened, what you did last summer,
Right.
but everybody knows what you did. So it's just be honest. Like it's just be honest with yourself and be honest with who you're working with, and
Hmm.
it's gonna be fine.
Yeah. I think I saw somewhere once that stuck with me. It said, pause before you post. So before you post something, just like you said, it's totally fine, even if it's something controversial, if that's a decision that you're making, but just be aware about, who's going to be seeing that.
Yeah.
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 It's just, I don't know. Sometimes I think to myself, maybe you should ask yourself, like, if my grandma were to see it, would she be fine with it? Would
Yeah.
would my future boss be okay with seeing this?
Right.
Would
Yeah.
I hire myself
Hmm.
if I saw this? Maybe the answer is yes. And again, it's a conscious decision that you make, right? On what you're putting out there. You can share whatever you want, so
Hmm.
long as you're aware that that's what's happening, and you're also going to attract that group of people too. I think when you're opening your own business, 100% you can share stuff that you are very strongly about, you feel strongly about, right? I have, and I'm aware of it. I'm aware of
Hmm.
what I'm posting, and it's for me, it's almost like a filter, right? I do choose who I want to work with. So
Hmm.
if whatever I'm saying that I'm very strong, I feel very, very strongly about, is seen by someone who wanted to work with me, but now because of that reason, they feel like she's not the right person for me, that is okay because they're
Right.
not the right person for me,
Right.
right?
Hmm. Yeah, you're right. And it really keeps everybody involved genuine, right? In that sense. So you're being really
Hmm.
upfront about it. And like you said, not everyone will be in the position where they can choose who they get to work with, but if you're in that, if you have the opportunity to put yourself in that position, I think that's a really great way to look at it. And I think one of the latest stats I saw was that 90% of employers will now review a candidate's social media presence before making hiring decisions. So obviously we know it's really important, and it's basically changed the landscape for job seekers, that it's not just you have to have your resume ready and you have to have your references, which is stuff we talked with John about on Monday, but this is almost like right up there with those things, because that's the next thing on an employer or recruiter's checklist, is to
Hmm.
see what your online presence looks like. So I guess in that sense, then, how often should people be sort of auditing their presence? Is that something they should only be doing when they're looking, like actively looking for a new position, or looking to make a career change, or is that something people should be kind of doing all the time?
I think I've always been a believer that, you should be ready whenever you're called,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it starts with your resume, of course. It's not something that you need to have public, but your resume, the public version of your resume is your LinkedIn profile, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have seen many people who have a resume, but their LinkedIn profile is not updated. So that is like a simple task for whoever watches this. Grab that resume. And if you have to copy paste that, it's better than not having anything at all on your LinkedIn page.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to people what you do on your LinkedIn profile. It's not a matter of like sometimes the titles we got don't really say what we do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that is where the description portion comes in. It again is going to help you with SEO as well. When people on LinkedIn, when recruiters on LinkedIn are searching for candidates, that actually is fed into that. So having those keywords in your social media strategist, say that. If you are a registered nurse, say that. Spell it out. You
Mm-hmm.
don't always get searched as RN, right? So make sure you're really taking advantage of those places. And as far as like how often you know, to update it, I think you update it. Let's just say you update it today. You don't have to update it all the time. Ideally, especially if you're trying to build yourself up as someone who is the leader within your industry, who has already a few years under your belt, who people respect your opinion when you speak. I would say update your resume and update your LinkedIn profile every week, once a week at least. You're probably
Mm-hmm.
already doing it. You're reading the news, you're reading stuff that's happening in the industry. Copy and paste that link into your LinkedIn profile. And before you share it, add some sort of point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because everybody can share a link. I'm not looking for the next New York Times when I go on LinkedIn. I'm looking for leaders, I'm looking for opinions. Right. So before I click on that article, tell me what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what's your point of view on it. Same thing with Facebook. A lot of people share, maybe what you did was able to create more jobs, or what
Mm-hmm.
you did was able to raise funds for whatever it is you're working on. Don't just share the link like an article, right? Share what was your part in it. Share what you did for it. Share what
Mm-hmm.
this is something people should care about. That is really what makes a difference,
Yeah.
right? Your experience, your positioning on it. And then, it's like try to update it once a week, especially if you're looking for a job, especially if you're trying to to portray yourself as a leader within your
Mm-hmm.
industry. Try to do that. And then if you're not, and it's more of a casual thing, then update your resume. And then when you win an award, share that you won the award. When
Hmm.
you, if you're in advertising and you have a new campaign that went out, share the campaign, right? Share
Hmm.
the campaign with your peers. And I think every social media has a like a duty, has a like for you to utilize. So your Facebook page is probably your family and friends. They should be updated too. You never know where business is coming from, right? And
Hmm.
there's also a sense of pride. Maybe your family is like very proud of you because they get to see these updates. And maybe somebody addresses them later down the line and says, I'm really looking for someone like this, or this is something that I need, and they can bring up your name in that conversation. So you really never know where any lead, business or personal, could come from.
Hmm.
And then your Instagram is fantastic for like some real time stuff, right? So if maybe on LinkedIn later on you're going to share the campaign that you worked on, maybe your Instagram page could be the one that shows them the behind the scenes of actually going on that shoot. What did it take, right? How was this created? Like, you woke up early, I'm sure, at 5 in the morning to get on that bus that's leaving at 6 so that you could be at the shoot, at location by 7 a.m. So all of these things make a difference.
Hmm.
And it's all a matter again of like, what is the purpose of your digital footprint? Do you want to be seen as a leader? Not everybody has to, right? I think that's something that everybody needs to understand. You don't have to be in that position either.
Hmm.
You can choose to fly under the radar a little bit more, but definitely if you're looking for a job, update and take a look at your social media
Yeah.
before you start sending out your resume.
Yeah, that makes sense. And um, do you think it can actually be a detriment to people if they have no online presence? Like if they set everything to private so that, no one finds them if there's a recruiter or an employer doing a search that they're not going to find anything. Do you think that almost can backfire in a way?
It depends. Um, I think it can definitely be private in your social platforms, right? I think your LinkedIn is public, so there's no real privacy there to make
Hmm.
sure that that is updated.
Hmm.
Um, I think people are definitely going to look at your LinkedIn, definitely update that. It's okay if you have your Instagram or your Facebook, um, you know, set to private, that's fine.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're able to have a website that could be searched, Rebecca Solomon, and I typed it in and I get your website, that would be amazing,
Hmm.
because you're controlling the conversation. You're controlling what is being said about you.
Yeah.
So take advantage of the fact that you can do that.
Yeah. I guess, like you said, it depends, just like it depends what you want to portray yourself as. I guess it depends also what employers are looking for, because maybe they're not hiring for a position that would, require some sort of social media presence. But I do think they're looking to try to get to know candidates,
Hmm.
and just sort of get a sense of who they are, whether that's, their professional capability or not. I think they do look to try to get that first impression at least. So I
Hmm.
just wonder if you have no presence, you know, I just wonder for employers, and I haven't really been on that end of things, but I wonder if they get a little bit, suspicious if there's just nothing for them to look at, but maybe not.
They shouldn't. They shouldn't. I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
as long as your LinkedIn is updated, if that's the bare minimum you want to do, then by all means do it. But make sure that's at least updated. If they don't
Yeah.
find it, look, if somebody goes to your Facebook page or Instagram page and it's set to private, that's fine.
Hmm.
That's just like a cherry on top for somebody who's
Right.
looking to hire. Like that's just like a stroke of luck
Hmm.
that you have this into this person besides their resume and besides their LinkedIn and maybe even besides their website, right?
Right.
You get to know them as people. Maybe you're able to, maybe you're not, but it shouldn't. I don't think that's. I
Hmm.
don't think an employee is going to make a decision at that point of, oh, their Facebook and their Instagram were private, so I'm not going to call them. It's
Right.
not going to
Right.
happen.
Right.
Um, but I do think, as far as your career goes, that your LinkedIn needs to be up to par. And if you can, If you're able to, especially if you have a few years of experience, have a website, like lead that conversation. If you can share your thought leadership by writing blogs on that website, do it. Do it because it's going to set you apart. And when there's three candidates that look the same, and you are the one who is going that extra mile, you're probably going to be their preference.
Right. Yeah, I always think about personal websites more for like creative industries, like, you know, graphic design and web-based roles and things like that. But I think that that's an interesting idea for you're saying for anybody, really.
Yeah, for anybody. I mean, it's a matter of like designing what is that strategy going to be for yourself, right? So I do help people with that, but it's like, what is the strategy? What is your digital footprint going to be like? What is that voice that you're going to have, right? So on your and you could talk about this, you could apply this to any industry, right? Any industry. You could be a lawyer and be an immigration lawyer, so then your blogs could be your point of view on the different laws on immigration that are happening. It could be your way to on a quote unquote free basis, like share some thought leadership, some advice to others who might be looking or may have a question about their immigration status, or just be curious about the topic, right? So it doesn't really need to be someone who's in the creative field. It's just a place for you to share your thought leadership. If you're a business owner, you could talk about what does it take to run a business, right? And share those things, like your mistakes, what you learned from, what you are doing now, why you're successful, how were you able to close that deal, what is your process of searching for new clients, what does your morning routine look like. Sometimes it seems silly, but people are watching and people want to grow, and if you've already reached a certain level, they want to know how you got there. What are you doing that I'm not? Right. So so all those things like really, really help.
Yeah, gotcha. And so what are some, so for people who maybe feel a little overwhelmed with like maintaining and updating actively, even let's just say for their LinkedIn, I know personally I feel that way sometimes. I don't have the time to like think about what kind and schedule content that I'm going to post. And if something happens organically that I share, like you mentioned, trying to add my own point of view or my takeaway from an article or something like that, that happens as sort of a one-off. But what are some other like quick and easy ways that people can keep their accounts active and current, whether that's, you know, not just updating their resume, but just showing that they're actively, you know, on the site?
Go on your LinkedIn for 5 minutes a day. Not that much. Scroll through your feed and like and comment on people's posts. Tell people you're there, you're alive, like I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, that's really what you're trying to communicate. So but you do have to keep in mind, and I have to check the stat, but as of a couple of years ago, I can tell you that I think it was only about 20% of people who were actually the ones generating content. So a lot of people are what they call lurkers, right? So they're just like kind of there scrolling, not doing anything. A lot of people are there liking things, sharing things. You want those people, okay? Like you want them to share, that you want to give them the ammunition for them to share it, right? So share some stuff that's interesting. Share things that are valuable to other people. Are you adding value to them, or are you just sharing another article, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's ways for you to still stay active without having to write a blog or do all these other things. Support each other, support your friends who share the article, share your point of view on the comments section of that post, right? Even if you're going to say, oh, I think it's great that you're doing that, you know, let me know if you need any help, you know, or it just shows initiative, right? When the majority of people are just watching, then I say give them something to look at. Why not? You're not going to have that much competition. So, you know, the odds are that you're going to start being seen as a leader within your industry just because you're one of the few who's actually sharing something.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Even though it might only be 5 minutes a day, that can really add up. And I think people do appreciate, you know, that you've taken the time and been conscious about, being
Mhm.
proactive and spending time interacting with those people and building those networks, because we know how important that is, especially in the job search sector.
Mhm.
A lot of the time it really does come down to who you know and who you stay in touch with. So it's a really important part of it.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we're running out of time.
Mhm.
I have a bunch of other questions. I know we could spend like all afternoon on this. So I've got one more question, and then we'll sort of wrap up. But what do you think, is building an online following an important step in this process? Is that like, I know some people obviously are looking to have followers and stuff like that, but for us regular everyday folks, like, is that an important part in this, or is it just be authentic and be yourself and don't worry about who's watching?
Uh, it's I don't think followers have it's not I don't I honestly, even with my clients, I don't worry about their followers as
Hmm.
much as like nurture the followers that you have.
Hmm.
Nurture the people that already follow you, and don't worry about doing things to get more followers. Like that's really not what it's about. Like a lot of people compare themselves to so and so has 20,000 followers,
Hmm.
right? So and so has 75,000 followers. I only have 12,000. I only have 2,000. I only have
Hmm.
800. Well, have you thought about what 800 people look like in an auditorium?
Yeah.
Have you actually thought about the reach that the potential, the power that you already have,
Hmm.
right? So instead of worrying that somebody else has 20,000 people who are following them, care about the ones that follow you right now,
Hmm.
right? So if there's people on your LinkedIn profile who are following you, give them a reason,
Hmm.
make it worth it, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with your Instagram page. If you're starting an Instagram page for to showcase your leadership or your business or whatever it is, even if it's a personal page, like you have 500, 800 people who could potentially see you, right?
Hmm.
Now that goes into the algorithm later and like how many people actually see your posts or whatever. But the reality is don't focus so much on those followers of that count.
Hmm.
Make it
Yeah.
count. Make what you're actually sharing count though.
Right. Yeah, and what you do share will attract the kind of people that you want, I think. Right. Like
Yeah.
if you're sharing a blog post or something like that, that people are interested in
Mhm.
that subject specifically may see it and then decide to follow you from there. So I guess it's sort of
Yeah.
like a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I do say this, like, and you do need this, whatever it is, whatever decision you make about your digital footprint, if it's important to you, if it's not, I'm telling you that it is. But if depending on how much effort you want to put into it, regardless of what effort you actually put in, have a strategy on what you're doing there.
Hmm.
Have a strategy for what you share, and where you're sharing it. Okay. So that it doesn't feel like sporadic, it doesn't feel messy, it doesn't feel like they like you want to make sure you're someone they can count on, right?
Hmm.
So if you're someone who's just going to post once and disappear, that's also not going to be very, very helpful.
Right.
So consistency matters as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great point. I think I need to hear that too, because I'm one of those people that if I see something great, I love to post and share and stuff like that, but I don't stop to think about the strategy and like the long-term effect of that often enough, at
Yeah,
least.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about that earlier. I mean, like, be strategic with everything that you do in your life. Some
Hmm.
people are very strategic with the work they do for their clients, and they forget that you're a client. Like, you
Hmm.
should be your own client.
Right.
You're a brand yourself. So,
Yeah.
what's your strategy?
Great. So we'll wrap up here because I know we're already at 2:30. So what are some key takeaways that FIU alumni watching this should take away? If they only remember like one or two things from this conversation, what would you want that to be?
Be ready for that phone call if it comes.
Hmm.
Um, and make sure your LinkedIn profile is updated. I mean, if you're going to do anything today, tomorrow, just make sure that's updated. That it actually, has what your resume says it should have, I mean, it's such a simple thing to do. It takes 10 minutes of your time, maybe one day. Just
Mhm.
book it, put it in your calendar, block the time, do whatever you need to do, but make sure that your LinkedIn page is updated.
Okay, great. And how can people follow you for more information for your content in
Mhm.
this area? How can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, Silvana Massolo on Instagram, or they can go to my business page. They can follow that as well. It's advertising_addicts on Instagram. On both profiles, they'll be able to find a link where they can schedule a 30-minute free consultation with me if they
Okay,
want to talk a little bit more about their digital footprint, let it be for themselves or their business.
great. And so in that call, what you do is you talk through that strategy and you sort of look at building, that that online presence that they're looking for.
During the call, I get to know them a little bit more about who
Hmm.
they are, what they want to do, and then from there we agree if we want to move forward with me designing a strategy for themselves.
Hmm. Great,
Hmm.
excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Silvana. I really appreciate you taking the time for chatting with us and breaking all this information down for our alumni. And for everyone watching, we hope you've enjoyed this two-part series, and we look forward to providing more of these relevant sessions for our global Panther network in the future. So thank you all, Silvana. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.